Hello, the poem we're going to cover today is Flag by John Agard.
Yeah, John Agard was born in Guyana, which is in the Caribbean, or the Caribbean. Yeah, South America. Part of the Caribbean, isn't it? Really?
Is it? Yes.
Yeah, that's where West Indian cricket's come from.
Yeah.
And he was born in 1949, and he moved to Britain in 1977. He's actually famous a lot of the time for humorous poems, although obviously with the subject matter of this one being conflict, it's not necessarily as humorous as a lot of his others. So what we're going to do, we're just about to switch the lights off, and then Mr. Evans and I are going to talk you through
the poem first, if you...
Oh, okay.
If you don't mind.
Oh, well, it wasn't far that.
Just your shout, it was quite anyway, the poem Flag is about the juxtaposition between the physical insignificance of a flag, a piece of cloth, and the metaphorical power that it holds over people.
Can I ask you a question there, sir?
Yeah.
What's juxtaposition?
Juxtaposition is the contrast between the physical aspect and the metaphorical power.
Oh, okay. So it's sort of like when you put two things together that contrast a lot. Sort of highlight.
Yeah. Maybe you can come up with an example as we go through the poem.
Well, I mean, you know, black and white is juxtaposition, isn't it? It's a stark contrast between the two.
Yes. Very good.
Thanks.
Not particularly original, but good nonetheless. The poem, as you've just seen there, conversation between two people. One is a naive person asking questions, the other's quite a cynical, possibly older person giving answers.
Perhaps you should read those bits.
Why is that?
Because you're older.
And more cynical?
Correct.
You're then more naive?
Yeah.
No,
younger.
No, a little bit less.
Younger.
No, everything.
Should we hit the lights?
Hit the lights? Yeah.
Yes.
Let's look at the first slide.
Okay. Is that not the first slide?
Well, no, that's the sort of title slide.
Pretty sure that is the first slide.
Wow.
So you want to look at the second slide?
Yep, second slide, but first of the poem. So, obviously the title of the poem is Flag. It's a very symbolic object, as you saw before the photo, the American flag there fluttering in the breeze, but it could mean any flag you can think of, including the British Union Jack. Starts off with a question from the naive observer asking what's fluttering in the breeze. Yeah, well,
to read it out.
Okay, enough time. Can you read it to us?
What's that fluttering in a breeze?
Fluttering. Very innocent verb there. You can just imagine a flag gently rippling in the wind. Very innocent question. Then we have the response. It's just a piece of cloth. That is a line which features in every stanza except the last one, which compares and contrasts the flag to just a piece of cloth. And in reality, it is just a piece of cloth. But
you want me to read? Is that how you'll do it?
Well, it is. Yeah, but
what I was going to say that it's just a piece of cloth. Of course, that's repetition there. But what you need to be able to say in the exam is what is the effect of that repetition. And obviously the repetition makes it stick in your mind. So what the poet is trying to say through every single stanza is that it is just a piece of cloth. He's trying to say, look, it's not important, but look at the effects that it has on people. So for example here, he's saying it brings a nation to its knees. And it says there, that's a sign of respect, kneeling. So people kneel before the flag, people respect the flag. It's also a double meaning, because actually bringing something to its knees means to destroy it, perhaps. So you might say if the football team were beaten 7 or 8-0, they were kind of brought to their knees.
Nice, maybe.
Like, that's a little bit harsh, a little bit cruel, but a bit of a low blow. Yeah, factual. So it's a double meaning there. It's saying that what the flag can do is it can destroy people, even though also people sometimes worship the flag. So it's a sign very much throughout the poem of good and bad, I think.
Is there a word for something which has a deliberate double meaning?
What, like a play on words?
Or ambiguous?
Ambiguous, yeah. I suppose it is ambiguous. Ambiguous means confusing more than anything.
With a deliberate double meaning. Yeah.
Okay, so if we move on to the second stanza, would you like me to?
Yeah, do.
Yeah. What's that unfurling from a pole?
Okay, again, it's a question which shows it's dialogue. Again, it's a very innocent looking verb, unfurling. Just being unwrapped from a pole. Very innocent, it's just a piece of cloth. Which we have again to emphasise the fact that it is in fact that just a piece of cloth.
And it's also saying there towards the end that it's a piece of cloth that makes the guts of men grow bold. When you talk about men with guts, we're talking about bravery. So what he's suggesting there is perhaps the flag, although it's just a piece of cloth, it makes ordinary men, ordinary mortals, it kind of turns them into much braver people. And it's very patriotic, and it's a reference to the army, which brings us back, of course, to conflict and the war. So you'll see the pattern in the poem. It starts with a question, every stanza, then we have it's just a piece of cloth, and then in the third line of every stanza, he says, well actually, he kind of contradicts himself a little bit by saying it's not just a piece of cloth, look at the power it has. So it makes the guts of men grow bold. It brings out almost this kind of bravery in men, which is quite a positive image, I think.
Those of you who want to dig a little bit deeper could pick up the word guts and think about how that reflects the injuries that we see in these war films, guts hanging out. It could be a reference to that, the danger of what can happen to people who are overly patriotic and do everything for their flag, for their country.
It's another double meaning, really, isn't it?
It is another double meaning.
It can mean bravery, can mean pain and suffering.
Some would say that's ambiguous.
It's more further ambiguity.
Further ambiguity. Should we go on to the next stanza, Mr. Furness?
Why not?
Press it down like that.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
what's that rising over a tent?
Another question there from the naive youngster on my left. Rising again. Simple verb, innocent verb. This flag has done nothing bad so far. And in this case, it's just rising over a tent. Again, it's just a piece of cloth. Emphasising that point. Physically, it's insignificant. Not a threat, not dangerous at all.
And then again, that moves us on to the last line, that dares the coward to relent. So there's personification there, so that's one of the techniques, again, that makes examiners quite excited. You'll get a double tick there. And you would say, what's the effect of that personification? He's showing again how powerful the flag is. It dares cowards to relent. Almost as if the flag has this power whereby anyone who's not brave enough to stick up for it will relent, which means kind of give up, move backwards, etc. And as the notes say there, it makes the flag sound courageous, and anyone not fighting for it becomes cowardly. Another army reference. So again, you see the structure of the stanza is exactly the same. The question, the statement, it's a piece of cloth, and then actually he comes in and says, no, it's not just a piece of cloth, look how powerful it can be. This one, maybe a slightly more negative image, and throughout the poem he goes from positive to negative, and again it's quite ambiguous.
Yeah, we see as we go through the poem that the flag starts off very innocently and then becomes a little bit more sinister. The things that we hear about it start to become a little bit more important, a bit more dangerous. Daring a coward to relent, not always a positive thing. If you think about people who carry out acts of terrorism for their country, they might be called cowards if they don't go ahead with it, but if they relent and do go ahead with it, it can cause terrible, terrible damage. Okay? Again, you could read into that a double meaning.
What's that flying across a field?
Again, another question. All the questions in one line, very simple. Flying across a field gives us the impression that it's to do with a battle, maybe across a battlefield. Maybe the person flying the flag is trying to claim the field for their country, for their team, for their side.
Yeah, and that's also quite an old image. These days you might not necessarily see the flag flying across the field, but if you think of films like Braveheart or any World War I film, they would always fly with their country's flag, or not fly literally, but they would move across the battlefield with the flag flying. And then at the end,
again, it's just a piece of cloth. Repetition again, that second line, always the same.
Yeah, and then at the end it says it will outlive the blood that you bleed. Now again, that's a bit ambiguous double meaning. You could take it as a very positive thing or a very negative thing. He's kind of saying that the flag is immortal, which means it's going to live forever. It means that when you're dead, when you've bled all your blood and when you've died, that flag will still live on. So again, there's a little bit of audience involvement there, for those of you who know your persuasive techniques, almost as if it's talking to you. But there's the positive image of the flag, it's immortal, it will live forever. But then there's the negative as well, because actually you're going to bleed for this flag, and you might well find yourself dying. So
it's almost as if the flag doesn't care how many people die for it, because it's always going to be there. It is the one constant. It will always be there, no matter how much blood you bleed. Is that us as the reader, or is it, or are they aiming this at someone who is a coward perhaps, and isn't fighting at war where the poet thinks they should be.
And as Mr. Edwards said before, we started thinking maybe it's a very positive poem about the power of the flag and how the flag is a good thing, but it's moving now, isn't it, towards being a bit sinister and suspicious and saying actually it's just a piece of cloth, and yet lots and lots of people are dying for it, which is not necessarily a good thing depending on your view. I'll just move on to the next slide, sir.
Okay, we see a slight change in the final stanza, as you can see here. The question changes slightly.
How can I possess such a cloth?
Okay, the person asking the question is quite interested now in the flag. This piece of cloth, look at all the power it's got. This person asking the questions has got a massive respect for this piece of cloth, and he wants one. Where can I get one from, he asks.
And then it says towards the end, just ask for a flag, my friend, and bind your conscience to the end. Okay, so that's, again, a warning, as it says here, of the power of the flag. You can use the flag, by all means, he says, go and get yourself a flag, but you have to give up your conscience and obey it. And there's a reference there, really, to you becoming a slave to the flag. So again, the positive imagery of the opening few stanzas has moved very much to a negative one, Mr. Evans.
There is also the use of sarcasm here. We said that he uses humour in his poems. There's a little element of that here. Just ask for a flag, my friend, that's all you need to do, but you'll have to bind your conscience to the end. You have to give up all your morals if you are going to serve this flag.
And another very good point that you might want to make in the exam, we've talked a lot about language and poetic techniques. The structure here is the same in every single stanza. We've reminded you of that in every stanza, and yet in this last one it changes. We talked about juxtaposition earlier. There's that change. It contrasts with the rest of the poem. Why would they do that, Mr. Evans? Why would they change the structure of the last stanza?
To make an impact, to make you realise it's coming to an end, and to emphasise these points. Just ask for a flag, my friend, and bind your conscience to the end. We've got an end-stop line there that really makes it stand out. We've also got a rhyming couplet there, which is like a bitter ending to the poem. It wraps it up nicely.
Makes it stick in the mind a little bit.
It really does.
And I'd like to point out with that question as well, how can I possess such a cloth? The person is very naive, and I think we should maybe bear in mind it's perhaps almost a child asking the questions, and obviously that makes the poem even more chilling, that it's a child asking about something to do with war as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, very good. I think that's why you played the part of the person asking the questions there, Mr. Spencer.
And because I look younger, probably.
More childlike.
Moisturised.
Doesn't show. Anyway, Flag, John Agard, excellent poem. Very good to compare to other poems in the anthology that we'll talk about at a later date.
Thanks for your time. Enjoy.